Back once again, it's the Renegade Masters. Dragonheart is here, and it's live on Callanheart. We're going to be bringing you talk about Blyth Part 1 and Part 2. We've got a really interesting Twitter thread that Mark Griffiths put up earlier, and we have some other bits and pieces to go through. We are Bill Long, Mark Griffiths, and Neil Williams. This is Dragonheart. Where is that mouse? I have completely lost the cursor. There we go.
I'm Luke Young, and this is Dragonheart.
Renegades indeed, I think, after that. Mark, Blyth Spartans away from home. Bit of a weird game, wasn't it?
Yeah, just a bit. It was certainly... Look, we rotated the team. Obviously, Parkinson's spat at the sides that he feels can get a result. But the performance was, well... this is the cliche I always want to come back to, and it's stupid in cycling when they talk about when somebody just has a bad day and they call it a jour sans, a day without, when you just for some reason can't do it. We seem to have too many of them in away games, and we certainly, well, I mean, to be perfectly frank, it would have been very harsh on Blyth if they'd lost that game, because they had an awful lot of the ball. I admit they didn't look maybe all that dangerous. In that game, you could see why they're the equal lowest scorers in their division. It wasn't the same on Tuesday, as we'll come to, but yeah, I didn't really feel much threat from them, but they played a lot of constructive football, and we'd be very harsh if we'd won that match, I think.
I think we'd be very harsh if, we'd have won it, to be honest. Yeah, as you say, Mark, I think Blyth were the better team. They played far better football. Is there something, I don't know whether it's tactics or is there something that, Parkinson's got to address? What happens when we go away from home? What is the problem? What's the issue? Why do we not play the most entertaining football like we do when we play at home, especially in the first 45 minutes last night and the last few home games? But we just don't seem to click. We just don't seem to have the ambition while we're away. I don't know what the problem is, but there's something wrong, and I just don't know what it is.
I've got a theory. No, I'm not saying I'm right, but let's be honest. I mean, the chances are I am. I'm a genius.
Employed by Disney after all for a reason.
Absolutely. I'm not even bringing Disney up anymore. I'm just letting you two guys do it. But I am available for animations, voiceovers, things like that. Somebody tweeted randomly that I was Pocahontas's dad. I don't know what that means or if it was offensive. But frankly, if it pays, I'll take it. I got no dignity. I've got a theory about this away game thing, which is that we're scouting teams, we're looking at how they like to play when they haven't got the ball, and we're thinking when they're at home, they're going to try and press us. I mean, you look at Blyth, that's your classic example, wasn't it? I mean, they were very brave in the way that they pressed us in our half in both matches. I thought in the first game they'd tire themselves out because they were so energetic. But they didn't. I mean, massive credit to them. I think we look at that and we think we can exploit this because we have good strikers with good movement and we can lift balls over the top rather than pass through the press and hit them like that. And we also have quick players going forwards. So I like that theory, but I've got to say it's not playing to our strengths because we are not executing it well in away games. And there have been a few away games where we've played like that in the first half, and then we've come in at half time and we've sort of reset, played more like a home game and looked much better after the break. The Chesterfield game, I felt, was where it all started. I feel a bit of a revisionist about that Chesterfield game. Everyone looks at that as a total disaster. And, I'm not saying it wasn't. First 10 minutes, I was delighted. They were really playing a high line, and we were dropping these balls in behind them. And I was thinking, we're getting around the back of them really easily. We're going to spank them here. But the trouble is, we then let a goal in, then gave them a stupid second goal, and all of a sudden, we started looking a bit desperate.
And Notts County was a bit like that without the second goal, wasn't it, as well?
Yeah. And we did, to be fair, create a lot of chances in that game, didn't we? It was a very open game. But I do feel, personally, that although I like us mixing it up for a start, but I don't think we should forget that we dominate home games because let's be honest, we spent money on this team. These players are better than the other National League teams' players. And when we get the ball around and get into that familiar passing rhythm, we dominate teams. Be brave, pass through the press, back your ability, back your teammates' ability, pass through them, and then you'll open the game wide open and make lots of chances. It was my theory.
Watching the away game at Blyth on Saturday, you wouldn't have said there's a great gulf between the two teams. You know, there was no, our class, as we say, we should have class in our team because of what we spent, did not shine. Yeah.
Because we didn't back that quality. We didn't get the ball down, move it about. You know, I mean, I just feel, look at high quality players. You know, and I see our players doing these sort of things. You bring the ball down, that guy's being marked, but I trust him because he's got a good first touch, so I'm going to ping the ball to his feet, and he's not going to be scared to receive it with the player on him because he knows he's got good technique, and we will, through our technique and our passing and our movement, we will make our way through that team and we'll back ourselves. And that's why teams build out from the back, isn't it? Yeah. Because, you know, people say, oh, they're taking a risk. Well, no, they're professional footballers. Yeah. 99 times out of 100, you give the ball to that centre-back on the edge of the box and the crowd go, ooh, but he'll pass to a teammate and he'll outmaneuver the opposition. And I just think in home games we do that, we get on top of teams. I think, to be fair, often they don't come at us as much.
Is it a confidence thing as well? They can do it at home, they feel they can do it at home because they've got the crowd behind them.
It's feasible.
Rather than doing it away.
It's definitely feasible, isn't it? Yeah. I definitely think... I mean, okay, home advantage for whatever intangible reason is a thing, and gosh, why wouldn't our team feel confident at home? The last time we lost in the league is Yeovil. That's like donkeys years ago. Mm-hmm. We're on the. Hang on, let me get it right, because I was writing Wrexham AFC up this morning. The third longest run of home wins from the start of a season. Since 1921, and next week we would equal that record, and we're over halfway to setting the record, including games back in the 19th century when we were hammering local clubs. So I mean, why wouldn't they feel that confidence? I mean, it's just.
But why is that not transferring to the away games? You know,
is it familiarity?
A football pitch is a football pitch, isn't it?
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
you're playing with the same bunch of players all the time, whether you're home or away. So that confidence should ooze while they're away. But something is just not clicking when we go. I mean, to me, against Blyth on Saturday, Blyth had the great passes, the interlink between players and whatever, the stick passing. Even last night, some of their passing was fantastic. Yeah. And we just didn't seem to do that on Saturday. We just looked like a mediocre team.
It felt a bit, like I said, I felt they played the ball over the top a little early, and then I also felt there was a little bit of, I don't want to be too harsh in saying this, I don't want to be too simplistic, but a tiny bit of, ooh, they're pressing well, ooh, I haven't got much time here, I'll just knock it and see, because, Dolby's quite mobile, Lee's quick, one of them might get on the end of it. That was the thing that frustrated me, and I'm not easily frustrated, as you both know, but there was a lot of, well, except when people start accusing me of being, Waltz. I'm not going to finish that sentence. I just realised where it was heading. There was a lot of not lifting balls over the top that people can chase, because that might win you a throw-in high up the pitch, just banging it second hole. Yeah, and then looking to see if somebody was there, and there was a lot of that just going straight for a goal kick or just straight to their keeper.
Comparison to last night, where the balls which were dinked over, they were perfect passes. Tozer. He spread some balls out last night, which you'd seen the Premiership. Yeah, the perfection on his passes, but that didn't happen in away games. And
that one looping ball. I mean, we can get onto the second part in a minute, but that one looping ball he played about halfway through the first half was unreal, wasn't it, to be fair? Yeah.
My arguments, just quickly with that, is that I think it can depend on how high up the pitch you play that pass. Yeah. I don't mean, not Tozer, actually, those are quarterback long passes, aren't they? But when you're starting to pass through the press a bit, you get to play the balls from higher up the pitch. You got more chance of being accurate. On Saturday, it was players 15 yards into the Wrexham half, lumping it. Yesterday, I mean, again, I don't dwell on yesterday yet, but Ford came in and linked up really well. And, you know, he would be feeding balls into midfield, or somebody would be feeding it into midfield, and then they'd have him as the link, and a lot of it came through him in the first half, didn't it? In at half and half position. So we weren't knocking it long straight away. We were working it round the back by making those angles by Ford's dragging spaces. Hosanna did fine on Saturday. I'm not trying to knock him, but Ford's quality on the ball meant that we were playing the little triangles that Blyth played so well, and getting around the back of them quite easily.
Yeah, I think I'm not as concerned as some people with our away form, because I think if you look through all of the games, it almost feels like there's maybe I'd have to look a bit closer and analyse it a bit more. I'm just doing my fan in the stand sort of thing here, but you look at the Chesterfield game, that was a disappointment, and you've already sort of listed what the problems were there. But the Yeovil game, I think we chopped and changed a little bit, and players were still getting used to each other. The conditions were poor. I know they were poor for both sides, but it kind of feeds into that sort of, you know, games like that quite often 1-1, because both teams are just tired by the end of the game, and two teams, you know, both sides have made a bit of a silly mistake. You look at the Notts County game. What let us down there was finishing, and not and not other aspects of the game, because you're right. Well, you know, the things that you've said are right, and it's the same. Like, there was some similarities between Chesterfield and Notts County, but we created those chances against Notts County and didn't take them. Oldham, we made it right in the second half, although the first half was really poor, wasn't it? Yeah,
very poor.
And the Blyth game, you know, we were playing a lot of square pegs and round holes, and Elliot Lee, for me, isn't a striker. He's an option if we're in an injury situation, but he's not a striker. He needs to be playing a bit deeper. You've got Tom O'Connor playing left centre back. I think we should touch on O'Connor later, but you know, we can get to that. It's not his best position, is it, left centre back?
No.
He didn't have the best of games against Blyth, but then he's not played much, and he's also not in that position. So I think if it was consistently one problem through an entire season, I'd be a little bit more concerned. And there are obviously some connections between what's gone wrong in these games, but I wouldn't say it's outright, yes, that is exactly our problem, but we're not rectifying it.
I think there is something wrong, though, because in the sense that it's consistently happened this season. But I agree. We are second in the league, 1 point off top, and liable to pick up more momentum as the season goes on. And we're now allowed to buy players, so if we have a problem, we can splash the cash. So I really don't feel concerned, if I'm honest. I feel very, very happy. I would say as well, I agree. Let me take an even more optimistic view of it. The Yeovil game, hot weather, shapeless sort of game, but if their striker, who looked really toothless, didn't hit the one shot of his life, because it was a hell of a goal, and he looked harmless apart from that, then we'd have won it. You know, the Notts County game, there were turning points. They could have scored more as well, to be fair. But, you know, our main rivals, we went toe-to-toe with them. And you know, we could have knocked 3 or 4 in their place. You know, there are little turning. Even the Blyth game, coming back to that last Saturday, right? Did Blyth deserve to lose? Absolutely not. No. But having said that, the challenge by Hickey on Aaron Hazen, and then the way that he then jumps on him afterwards was bizarre. And then how he had a slide kick at him, that's a red card.
Yeah.
Dalby, when he hit the bar, definite penalty, because his shirt's been pulled off his back, and he's done brilliantly to get a shot off, because he's almost lying down, because he's been pulled down in the penalty area. The goal, which is the last minute, is about a yard offside.
Is it?
No question. No question.
Okay.
Not that he didn't touch the ball, does he? He
doesn't touch the ball, but you have to look at the replay to know if he hasn't touched it. He's that close, and Howard can't go across the cover because he's waiting for that header. So the ball goes in because the guy attacks the ball.
Right, okay.
But when you look at the replay, and I am loath to criticise officials on their judgment. Other things I will criticise, but not their judgment. If you don't see it, you don't see it. Fair enough, you only get one chance. Yeah. But I was a little surprised it wasn't spotted, because he didn't make a run past the defensive line into that position. He was standing about a yard offside. Well, it's a yard, say half a yard, but still blatant.
When the free kick was took, he was ahead of the Wrexham defence.
He's there for a while, isn't he? He took up a position there, stayed offside, and then, you know, I'm surprised that didn't get spotted. I think the linesmen are amazing how accurate they are in commentary. I'm often saying, "Oh, that's wrong, that's wrong." You look at the replay, no, they were right. So, you know, I was really surprised he missed that one.
But we have to go back to 78. You know, we our last game against Blyth again in the cup, where we had that corner taken 3 times because they scored a goal because we made a mistake in the back, and the corner flag falling down 3 times. So it swings and roundabouts, just come round, doesn't it? So Blyth has got a bit of history to it.
Yeah, and well, going back to Blyth, you got to give credit to their fans, haven't you? And especially for the way they were at the away match. So the away for them, for our home game in the second match, it was like I kind of hate the phrase "it's a game of 2 halves," but that really was a game of 2 halves, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. We were like the Incredible Hulk in the first half and Bruce Banner in the second. It was Disney's Mark Griffiths laughing at that Disney-based pun.
Absolutely.
Marvel Disney.
Yeah,
now,
that's true. That's true. I think Bruce Banner has his positive qualities, to be fair.
Oh, and we didn't lose the game, so
and his name's ideal for a limerick.
But then it gets a bit concerning that we're conceding goals at home.
It is,
which we hadn't done for most of the season. And then Barnet last home game we conceded 5, and last night when we looked so comfortable, 3-0 up half time, the wheels fell off in the second half and conceding 2 goals.
You're right. There's 100% of concern there. I think I'm saying that I wasn't too concerned about the away form as such for away games, but I am a little bit concerned about the defence. I think to concede 2 goals like that when you're in control of the game, I think it's a little bit worrying. I don't think it's danger zone yet.
Was it that they turned off because they thought they'd won the game already at half time?
Yeah.
They came out with that wrong attitude again.
I think we always have patches in a game where we do switch off. I mean, even against Torquay, they didn't capitalise on it, but there were periods of the match where we did sort of switch off slightly and they just didn't punish us. So that's slightly concerning. But I suppose when you score as many goals as we do, it almost doesn't matter, Mark, really, does it?
It does if we stop scoring goals, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
I was quite shocked before the Barnet game to see that we had the equal best defence in the division, because that didn't pass the eye test. I thought we looked a bit vulnerable at the back, and I was quite shocked to see that we had actually done better than everyone else, apart from whoever. I think it's Boreham Wood, actually. So yeah, I sort of didn't really feel we were defending brilliantly. I've got to say, though, I think the 2 things go hand in hand. I think I may have said this last week, I think Parkinson has the attitude of going for the opposition. We've got such terrific attacking quality. The wing-backs play very high up the pitch. He's come on yesterday when we're hanging on to a game, and he is playing sort of off the strikers most of the time. Yeah. I think that I would be inclined to back him on this. He does think we can score a lot of goals and blow teams away, and we gamble at the back, but then I think the idea is we have strength and mobility at the back, and by playing 3 at the back, you do often have 3 men back to try and deal with situations. But it doesn't. Yeah, we're not a stable 1-0 team. We won 7-5.
Yeah,
we won 6-0. That sort of team, aren't we?
It's not good for a supporter, is it, when you're that far ahead and then all of a sudden they start coming back to you. But there was one comment I saw last night on I don't know which forum it was, that whether it was because toes went off, that Cloworth looked a bit vulnerable. I don't know, but then they always, fans have had a lot of go at Cloworth recently about him.
Yeah, and
the back 3 they've had to go at,
It's a tough one, that, and I think it is harsh to give too much criticism, because we played with a new back 3 for the first half, and then a new back 3 for the second half. They haven't had the half to gel with each other. Blyth have tried to capitalise that and got 2 fairly quick goals, haven't they? Tunnicliffe's been playing on the right where Hayden plays. Hayden comes in and he switches to the middle. So he's in a different position. He's in a different position, which I think in a back 3 especially, it's completely different role, isn't it? Playing that stopper in the middle to the more attacking sort of the left or the right side. And then on top of that, he's barely played any games, has he, with these players? So
last game was April.
His last game was April, and it was his first time playing a competitive game with any of those other centre-backs. So we've got to give them a little bit of leeway, I think.
What did you think of him? Tunnicliffe?
I thought he was pretty decent. Yeah. It was a difficult game to judge, really, because we looked completely in control in the first half, and then we conceded 2 really soft goals in the second. So, and could have conceded a third to the death.
Where he
should have buried that, shouldn't he? I think nerves have got to that.
All through the game,
then.
he's nailing the ball. He scores a fantastic goal, and then he does that.
Yeah.
Oh, we were lucky there.
I would feel for him if it wasn't an FA Cup game where we were going to prosper from him missing. Strange game, but all credit to the Blyth fans. They were fantastic, weren't they?
250 of them,
That's the most.
Plus they must have broken down on the way as well.
Yeah, you got to feel for them, haven't you? Really?
Do you know if they made it?
I'm assuming they must have done it for 250 of them.
They didn't.
They didn't.
No.
They didn't. It was on. I saw on Twitter. Apparently, the club had tried their best to help out, and their fans were quite grateful. But I think they were stuck in the Lancashire services somewhere, which is a massive shame, isn't it? I saw someone. I apologise that I can't give credit, but I did see someone on Twitter suggest that maybe we should have a friendly with them over the summer, just to sort of make up for those who couldn't make it, which would be quite nice. It'd be nice if we could strike a bit of a relationship up with Blyth, wouldn't it? Really,
Bring back the Debenhams Cup.
Yeah.
You can get ESPN in Lancashire service stations, can't you?
I don't know. I'm sure they could.
I'm sure there's means and ways of getting it on a toaster.
That's the sort of talk I was looking for.
Yeah.
What a man. I was randomly looking at the website that makes like bespoke football T-shirts, and there already was a Jimmy, isn't it? Jimmy the Toaster.
John the Toaster.
There already was a John the Toaster T-shirt, which I was very impressed with.
One last thing before we sort of move on from Blyth. Obviously, it was a potential tie with Chester was on the cards if they were to have won their game. They bottled it, like I sort of expected they were going to do.
They were fond obstruck.
They were fond obstruck. Do you know what? It was I kind of felt like it was a win-win because I really wanted that game against Chester, but if they bottle it, it's kind of funny, really. Strange reaction from the crowd, and we've had a few people mention this on Twitter, Mark. We'll get to your Twitter thread in a little bit, but some people were not impressed that a section of the crowd celebrated, Neil, were they?
There was quite a big celebration, and the whole ground then just started singing for whatever reason. Because obviously they'd heard about the Chester. I think Chester must have gone ahead to 2-1.
Yeah, they went ahead to 2-1 in extra time.
So they all thought we were going to play Chester in the next round, even though our game hadn't finished at that point.
Yeah, and they had that chance.
And they had that chance right at the end. So it was quite strange that they were celebrating, thinking we were going to play Chester, and we had won our game. It's like half the singing and just started cheering and started applauding, and then it just started to rip around the ground. And I say it didn't matter for me whether it was Chester or Oldham. They both sell out their away end, so
it's
it'll be a great atmosphere, So to me it didn't bother me, but obviously to a lot of fans who maybe not even been to a Chester derby.
Well, this is the point I was going to come on to, Neil. We mentioned it a little bit just before we went on air, didn't we? I think a lot of people on Twitter were getting a bit annoyed that people were celebrating a Chester goal, and I completely understand that. It's if Chester were playing Bricky under nines, I'd want Bricky under nines to win. That's just how it is, isn't it? Do you know? For any international listeners, Bricky are Brickfield Rangers. They're a local club, but there's a lot of younger fans who won't have experienced a Wrexham Chester game. There's a lot of younger fans who are now hitting their late teens, early 20s who haven't experienced a Chester game since they were a kid, and they want that derby. And it's such a huge game. Potentially the last time we could have played them for a while. I didn't celebrate, but I could sort of understand where it was coming from, Mark. What was your impression of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I was quite excited at the thought of it. And after, to let light in on magic after the game, when we went down to the media room, everybody was huddled around listening to the commentary of the Chester match, just the last couple of minutes and then the penalty shootout, including Phil Parkinson for a bit, who said, I'd rather play Chester than Oldham because it would just be exciting. And no offence to Oldham, but just the Chester Wrexham game would surely be the BBC's chosen match for a start, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would have real excitement. It would be the first derby under Robin Ryan. And he stayed for a little bit listening, and he said, I'll come back, listen to it, I'll do the press conference when you're ready. And he left so that we could listen to the rest of the game.
Fair play.
But I also do understand, because like I said, we had I put the thread out, which we'll come to later, and Dave Jones replied to it saying, advice to new fans, you never, ever cheer for a Chester goal or hope that Chester win. And I do understand that as well, in that
I think that's
they
maybe
are our rivals.
from the older generation. I think that's coming from, which is what I would say, really.
His profile photo, he doesn't look that old to me.
No? Okay.
I can see both sides in that. I fancy the derby. I'm sure a lot of people were not just the whole, haven't seen a derby. I'm sure people are thinking this would be a derby where we've got Mullin and Palmer and all those players, and we will absolutely spank them, and it'll be memorable.
Yeah, but that's not guaranteed, is it? Well, if they,
but I'm saying that's how football fans think. Isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if
even as you're watching us struggle against a team below Chester in their league,
Yeah.
you're thinking we'll batter them.
And Chester would have had to have beaten a team in our league to progress as well, so they've obviously would have shown they were capable. Yeah. But they weren't in the end because they lost. So unlucky
on
Chester.
penalties.
But I think I can see that, and I had half a mind of that, but it felt very weird on reflection that people cheered a Chester goal at the race course. That's never happened before.
I think I've got to say, being in the stands, there was obviously some cheering on. So I'm sort of based in the middle of the Eric Roberts or Rex Rent or whatever, the University End. That's what it's called now. I'm sure sponsorships are available. On the left side which is where the singers, shall we call them, usually sort of sit or stand. There was a bit of a cheer from there, and then it was almost like an ironic, sarcastic sort of cheer that rippled across. I don't think people that were stood near me were full-blown cheering. It was a bit of a way, look, we might be playing them. And then it sort
then the
of
whole ground erupted into
it generated a bit of an atmosphere, didn't it? You know, and look, that's what playing your rivals is what football is all about. True, yeah. It's what it's all about, especially when we there's a good chance that we might not be in their league for a while. Why not? Anyway, I think...
But that could happen next year.
It could happen next year in the Cup.
I got to be honest, I had a slight sense of unease, if I'm honest, that we're all cheering about, we're going to play Chester next, while at the other end of the pitch, we are clinging on.
No, I did as well,
Focus on our game. I don't take it for granted we're going to win this one. Yeah. Although, I say don't take it for granted, I've written my column for the Leader this week, talking about how people were excited, probably because... that might be quite unlikely. We played them for quite a long time because we're heading in different directions. So I'm taking it for granted we'll get promoted, aren't I? So I'm a hypocrite.
Of course, yeah. I think it's everyone talks about the National League being the hardest league to get out of. I think the North and South are equally as difficult.
I think the North particularly.
There's a lot of strong teams in the North.
Yo-yo teams like
Ebbsfleet
and Woking. The North, you've got teams that were stuck down there for ages like York. You've got teams like Darlington and Hereford coming back up. Kidderminster.
Kidderminster definitely. And even Fylde have gone down there and stuck around, haven't they? You know, so that is a tough league to get out of, and there's a lot of good big teams in that league. So... you know, I think there's a chance that Chester won't come up for a while, even if we don't go up. I think is how I saw it. Trying not to put the kibosh on our promotion charge.
Yeah. I got to be honest. I actually there was in the first half. There was a fantastic smell of what was chicken curry. It smelled like around the press box, and I actually, when they all cheers, I just thought somebody had arrived with a second helping of it because it smelled fantastic, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
Although it could have been what's his face. I better not say his name, had I? The bloke from TalkSport, who is known.
The bag full,
and was next to us. I seemed to just have a plastic bag that he was eating loads of food out of all through the match. Occasionally he looked up to watch the game.
Have to tell me off air who that is.
I will do.
Okay. Anyway, we'll move on from that to go on
to camera.
The Twitter.
Well, fair enough.
Disney's Mark Griffiths, everybody.
Again, like I said last week, I have Disney's lawyers on my side. I'm not scared of anything.
On that note, we will be moving on to Twitter.
I'm Kerry Evans, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio Show.
Okay, so Mark has put out a couple of questions for Twitter for us to read out. We've got first question, Mark. I I'm struggling to remember exactly what it is. The
I've got it
wording.
here.
Go on, you give me the
Don't
wording.
worry.
I know what the theme is.
There were two questions. I think we should focus on the first question for the simple reason that we've had a lot more answers to that first question. The first one was aimed at fans who've been supporting Wrexham for a long time. The second was aimed at new fans, and I thought I was being cute by putting the question this morning, because our new fans tend to be brilliant at chipping in with these sort of things. What I forgot was the time difference, certainly to the States, so I've not given them enough chance. So I think I'll put the second question out again. I've had a couple of responses, but mostly it's traditional Wrexham fans. So the question was, if you're already a Wrexham fan before the takeover, what's the most important thing new fans should know? That's why we had the comment about never, ever, ever cheer Chester. There are some fun ones. I love this one as an opening one, which is from Gavin France. The most vocal are not necessarily representative of the majority, and money is no guarantee of success, but it really helps. I think that's really interesting, the idea of the most vocal and not the majority. I think the club's in a happier place now, but about 2-3 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, there was quite a lot of anger. Some of it, I think, was badly directed. We've seen bits of it in Welcome to Wrexham, where, please don't get me wrong, fans have a right to express their opinion, but some stuff got quite personal and quite unpleasant, and there was an element of toxicity in the atmosphere. Now, I think the new regime have done a good job of weeding some people out. There have been a lot of banning orders given out, and I think it's, that disorder and those opinions to some extent went hand in hand, not totally, but it certainly doesn't seem to be as prevalent, certainly from what I come across, as it was maybe 3 years ago. Maybe it's just that people are happier, but I think that is true. Don't think that the noisy people are necessarily the majority. There's an awful lot of people who won't go shooting their mouths off, won't go jumping on social media, but they have a more calm view of things, and that is the majority, I think.
Yeah, pre-takeover, I used to sit on the right-hand side of the university end, and me and my mum used to call it Angry Corner. It was just an area, because obviously it was pre-reserved seating then, so the stand wouldn't always be sold out. There'd be a lot of people in that stand, but it was never sold out, so you could just sort of go and pick and choose where you wanted to sit. And we would, every game would say, are we going to sit in Angry Corner? And sometimes we'd be in the mood to sort of like sit and laugh at the people who were going mental. And some days it's like, I'm just not in the mood for listening to that negativity. But when I think back to it, it was only 4, 5, maybe 6 people at the very most out of a good couple of hundred, but they're just the ones who were standing there barking.
But you could feel the negativity last night, couldn't you, Mark? You were saying on the commentary, in the second half, people go, oh, and especially with the keeper,
Yeah, I understood that more than I think the sort of aggressive stuff that has happened in the past. Yeah. I do understand that. Although I think it was a bit unnecessary. People were panicking because the ball was going back to Howard, who was clearly, there was no danger of someone else, a Blyth player, just nipping in, and yet they were still panicking. That was a bit unusual, but we had been leaky in the second half, and I sort of get that. But it felt a bit the same against Barnet, which I'm sure is why last night people thought, oh, here we go again. I remember the Dover game, when we were in a much more dire situation, when we were 3 down, the crowd still, I think, kind of believed a bit more. Whereas those last 2 games, the crowd were more edgy about it. But I'm not inclined to be critical. I'm not trying to be critical in saying that, because you respond with your emotions. And if you're nervous because your team suddenly started defending badly, you might well overreact to stuff. I get it. But it was an overreaction, I think.
My only concern with it is that if this becomes a trend... it's going to negatively impact the team.
Exactly.
Phil Parkinson, Phil Parkinson said, doesn't he, previously, that the good atmosphere helps the players. Sorry, go on, Neil.
And that's what the players have come out and said as well. At that point in time when maybe they're not playing so well, the team, or the fans need to get behind the team and start. The whole ground needs to be, cheering on the team rather than being on the edge of the seats and all the anxiety passes onto the pitch.
Definitely. And I think there's like the misplaced pass that led to the first goal, a bad pass like that, if you took a moan
Happens in every game.
yeah, that's kind of fair enough. But then when, like you say, Mark, just a simple pass and you just don't tactically agree with the decision, keep it to yourself, I think. Like, let the team play. We're not professional footballers, we're not coaches, we're not managers in the stands. Give them the opportunity to build on their game plan rather than just getting on their back because you don't think they're attacking enough or whatever it is. But I'm not gonna try and tell people what to do, because, like you say, Mark, I can understand why people react with emotions. It's just I just don't want it to become a trend, really.
A lot of fans, and I'm not talking about Wrexham fans, I'm talking about fans generally in Britain, often react badly to a backwards pass. Sometimes the backwards pass is by far the best option, and I thought
it's actually the most progressive, isn't it?
Yeah, sometimes you're pulling another team out of position by doing it.
Yeah.
But certainly I thought O'Connor did well when he came on yesterday, because he calmed things down a bit. And sometimes it would be because he would decide, okay, I could play a pass that would progress the ball, but there's a risk I'll lose it, or I can feed it back to an area where there's no Blyth players and we'll get 10-15 seconds of comfortable possession and we'll just take the sting out of things. And he did that sort of thing very well. The thing with the Howard passes back to him, firstly, is I don't think it was so much, well, sometimes it was anxiety, though. We played a back pass, which no problem with playing a back pass, I don't think. But it was also sometimes as if, oh no, we've passed it back towards our own goalkeeper, something bad will happen now, when there was no Blyth players to capitalise. That sort of slightly panicky feeling that was happening. And I can't help thinking about what you both just said about players' confidence, thinking about Howard. He did have a rough start for us.
He did, yeah.
And the fans, it was the Macclesfield friendly, he dropped a cross. And then after that, they were sort of like sarcastically applauding when he caught crosses. Oh no, I think it's Eastleigh. And then he dropped another one. And you think, oh, okay, let's hope that they get over this, because you can damage a keeper like that.
Yeah.
And he's done very well since the Chesterfield game, and you don't hear that. But all of a sudden, when people are feeling anxious again, that all came out again. Then I didn't see anything, apart maybe from that last gasp chance of Blyth, which hadn't happened yet, that Howard did that was wrong yesterday. But it seemed to bring back that, we don't trust Howard, don't knock it back towards him, when he's been playing really well in recent weeks.
Yeah, difficult one. Have we got any any others, Mark? Sorry, I'm jumping in there. I think before you find another one, I think my thing that I'd like the American fans to know that is, if you are planning a trip, Liverpool or Manchester airports are the best airports to go for in terms of locality.
But there's not many flights directly to.
No, maybe not.
Not
You can go to Amsterdam, can't you? I think, and fly from Amsterdam to Liverpool or Manchester. Or several different flights are available. Check Expedia.
They sponsor Wrexham, they do.
They do, yeah.
Oh man, you're going to get a free holiday out of that.
Oh, I would like a free holiday. I've never been to New York, just saying.
It's fantastic. New York's fantastic, and I tell you what, Pro Expedia Wrexham podcast recorded in New York, they reckon, have really good sound quality. and my understanding is that when wealthy football club owners pay for Calon FM to do an outside broadcast in New York over the course of a week,
and then take it down to the Phillies ground as well.
Absolutely, and in Philadelphia as well. You're absolutely right. Taking full studio staff, obviously, and of course my entourage of hangers-on. I understand that when that happens, Wrexham always win the next 3 games, and Expedia records record profits. I believe that's the case, or certainly it hasn't been disproven yet by any reputable scientist or statistician.
Yeah, definitely.
Or bloke in the pub
and you were
selling meat in the car park.
I actually replied to a few people on the Facebook, and I don't know which Wrexham fans chat it was today, Americans. One guy was saying, whole family started following Wrexham and looking to come on to Wrexham for my honeymoon-ish kind of trip.
Wow.
Oh, yes.
And I was saying, it's not only the town. North Wales is beautiful, it's a beautiful part of the world with the hills and the valleys and, nice people as well. So there's a lot of Americans out there looking for information about the area.
And not just Americans, in all fairness, Canadians
as well.
I would like to go to Toronto.
Yeah.
Australians, I wouldn't mind going to Sydney.
There's a lot of Australians come on as well.
Yeah.
Vancouver and Sydney are beautiful cities.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tokyo, have we got any Japanese followers? I
Not
mean,
yet.
that's on my bucket list, Tokyo. But anyway, no, in all seriousness, I think in terms of American support, obviously it any sort of support is very welcome, and I think it's to be embraced. Just read up on the history as much as you can beforehand. And not just of the team, of the town. Come and see
of the area.
Find out what it's like. I think the documentary did a really good job of figuring that out. But you will enjoy your stay more if you take the time to find the areas that are good to visit in the local.
I believe there's quite a few Americans here last night at the game.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
And also, I'd just like to point out to that couple who were thinking of a sort of honeymoonish trip to Wrexham, a sentence that has never before been said by a human, that if they want to go a bit further and actually get married here, I am willing to dress up as Elvis. For a fee. I mean, obviously,
it's just a
Disney's
shame.
Mark Griffiths doesn't get out of bed for less than 20k these days.
Shame the club haven't got a certificate so you can get married at the club. See,
We do though.
do they now?
Yeah, we have for a while, I believe, haven't we? I thought we did.
Not a few years ago. They may have now, but they didn't have.
I thought we did.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know.
I reckon. Imagine getting married on the roof of the Mull Road stand. Macron stand.
Maybe
Imagine.
the club now should put aside maybe a number of tickets for Americans who come and host these home games.
I think we do.
Do we?
I think I'm right in saying.
Because it's a long way to come for a trip if you can't get a ticket to a home game, because locals can't get tickets for a home game. So
Yeah.
If you look up irony in the dictionary, you see somebody who's flown over from Montreal and
Yeah.
can't get into a Wrexham game.
Yeah.
I believe that's the case. I think that if you're planning a trip from abroad, and I'm not including England in this, I think contact the club ahead of time, because they are able to put some tickets aside for the, because let's be honest, they're not taking many tickets away from local fans. So.
Yeah, of course.
yeah, but it's good to put that out there, that they can get tickets if they are going to make
But I
that.
think it's wise to get in touch.
Yeah.
Any more tweets, Mark?
Yes, Dwayne Williams. Oh.
Loads of tweets.
Yes.
So many tweets.
Absolutely. Aaron's suffering. We've overloaded his Twitter capabilities. Dwayne Williams, a man who knows his way around a microphone, says, don't expect an easy ride and take extra care if you have a heart condition, which I think is very true to the way we're playing at the moment.
Yeah.
It's thrilling, isn't it? Isn't it?
I think, maybe that's something that our troubles have sort of been documented on the documentary, but any new fan, local or international, or even UK-based people who decide that they want to take Wrexham up, just be mindful that the times are very good now, but a lot of us have experienced a lot of heartache over the last few decades. A lot of heartache.
That goes with most clubs,
It does. It does.
There's always ups and downs, whichever club. You go back to the
certainly
70s and 80s when Wrexham were doing really well, and then
My one slight worry is that we're having like a watershed Premier League moment where football didn't exist before 1992, and I don't want that to happen with Wrexham in that. I don't think anything that the new owners have done is leading towards that, but it's such a pivotal moment in our history that it can sort of become that we are the Hollywood club now. I just want it to be remembered how much we have struggled, even just from a footballing fan point of view. Never mind the troubles, even just the fact that we've had so many bad seasons over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think that should be put out there a lot more about the struggles the club went through. Dark years, but I don't think personally it's been documented enough. Of what the fans went through, what the fans did to help the club and to get to save the club. Without the fans, there'd have been no club at this point
absolutely
in time.
I mean, I would wholeheartedly agree. I think that comment is more about the fact that we score lots of goals and let lots in. I mean, let's be honest, Barney scored 5 goals at Wrexham, an event which unprecedented in human history since Liz Truss became Prime Minister, but that's a different matter.
But previously to that, they'd scored quite a few goals in the previous games, though, hadn't they, Barnett?
Yeah, but not against us.
I know, not against.
We're great.
Yeah.
On that line of relish this, a lot of Wrexham fans responding are saying things like that. So, for example, Jago says, from new fans to football, not just Wrexham, I'd emphasise how exceptionally abnormal it is for a team to regularly score 5+ goals in a match, the average being 1.34 goals per game, Google suggests. Absolutely correct. I mean, what we're having here is crazy. We've scored 3 goals in the first half of our last 4 home games. 4? 3? 4? No, 3. I mean, that's just nonsense, isn't it?
We're up there with like the Man City in the Premiership.
Yeah,
on the amount of goals they're scoring. isn't it?
Anna says, be there for the highs, be there for the lows. It's just how football goes. Yeah, it will not always be fun. But I do think, to be fair, that I think that the fans who are coming in are, whether or not they're football fans already, are sports fans. I feel that the comments we get are very informed and intelligent, and I think people are recognising there's no guarantee of success for anybody. It is just
not even if you've got money.
This is
guaranteed
fun.
of it.
Yeah, absolutely right.
You know, the players have got to gel together and be a team on the pitch before you can.
Something I think that we've actually done very well, because you see a lot of teams that suddenly get an upscale in their money who then struggle to gel. I mean, look at Chelsea when they first got Abramovich's money in. You know, they took them a couple of years to really properly click.
And get the right
and Man
players
City
in.
as well. You know, they had Sinawatra's money, didn't they? And that didn't get them anywhere. It was when they had the second big takeover. Yes, there's a lot there. There's one here for Mr. Speedy, who makes 4 points, actually. I'd like to get to the others if I can, but one is relevant to that. Before the takeover, we were awful at times. So, and this is so true, a bad day at the office now would have been a good day back then.
Yes,
That is so true. That's brilliant.
That 7-5 and even the Blyth 3-2 sort of encapsulate that perfectly, don't they? That we'd have probably been quite happy with 3-2 in that game in the circumstances that happened about 2 or 3 years ago, wouldn't we? We are running short of time, so I will cut it there, but I would suggest that this is something that maybe we could keep going into next week. So if there's any more suggestions from either the international fans or the local fans, get in touch with Mark on that Twitter thread, and we'll keep them going. But after this, we have some news about the COP.
Hi guys, I'm Dominic Bowes and this is Dragonheart.
So the club have been asking people recently to sign the COP petition to try and encourage. Is this one's the planning?
This is local planning permission,
local planning,
isn't it, for the
So
COP?
trying to encourage the local planning permission to go ahead. The petition runs out today, I believe.
That's
so
right.
if you are listening on a computer, on your phone, tablets, whatever, get off. Callum, well, keep it on in the background. Sign the petition. Sorry, Aaron. Stay on Callan. Always stay on Callan. Even when Dragonheart finishes, carry on listening to Callan.
Yes. When you go out to work, if your house is empty, leave it on. Okay, don't worry about
the dog or the cat.
Well, or just to boost the listening figures that we richly deserve. Don't worry. This whole energy crisis and bills going up. It's a conspiracy. Everyone, don't worry. They'll be the same as well. No, I'm not saying. Oops, sorry. I'll just take my tin helmet off.
I don't quite know how to follow that.
I'm sorry. There is an energy crisis, honestly. That's why I mentioned Liz Truss earlier.
So yeah, that please sign the COP petition. It's really important we get as many people signing that as possible. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you may have missed that, but please keep an eye on any potential petitions that may come in the future for signatures, because that would be really valuable for the club. But one positive bit of news is that the floodlight planning has been approved.
I don't know what the purpose of the new floodlights is. Well, I do, because they can alter the amount of light, I believe, they put on the pitch, depending on which game you're playing, because there's UEFA standards and they've got to be such a bit brighter than normal National League standards, from what I can gather. So hence why we need the new flood. Obviously the thought process is there already for when we're in the Champions League, maybe, I don't know. But,
Hey, good lad.
but yeah, that's been approved, and from what I can gather, this going to be installed before the end of the season.
Yeah, and they're going to be bigger.
Yeah.
8 metres higher, but and an 20-degree angle on them.
What excites me about the brightness is that I should say it's not a completely 20-degree angle, it's only at the top, isn't it?
Yeah.
Otherwise that'd be really you'd have to sort of build them in town centre to get them across the ground. Sorry, I just don't know why I said that. I'm an architect, obviously.
Amongst many things.
I find it interesting. Yes, exactly. It's
Master
careful now, remember we're on
of
a
none.
Oh man, that's harsh. The maximum lux, a unit of an SI unit, I'm going to pretend I understand, is 1,500 for UEFA Category 4 stadiums. The maximum lux for the National League in a gloriously tin pot manner is 350.
350. Wow, what a difference.
I gotta be honest.
So you played in the shadows in the National League.
Exactly. If you just get a couple of people to switch the headlights on the side of the pitch, and we'd be absolutely fine.
We could have done that like in the 70s when the little cars were there and it shunted in the corner.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've got to be honest and say I haven't got a clear concept in my mind of what a difference of 1,150 looks like, but National League must be fairly easily pleased, really. If you know what's the greatest level of dusk? Should we settle for dusk? You know what is that exactly? I mean, if 350 is the level of floodlights that we have, then 1,500 must be like when. In Always Sunny, when the gang go for an award and they light the bars super bright so that Deandra is you can't see anything because she's sort of glowing.
I've got to say that is one of my favourite episodes.
That is a corker.
It
is good. That
Going for awards, hasn't the documentary been put up for awards?
Two Critics' Choice Awards.
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah, which is
fantastic.
Best commentator.
for Neil.
Actually, yeah. And most arrogant, pompous person.
For me,
also for Neil. No, well, that's on me. That they're gonna have a lifetime achievement one for that. For me, for that one.
So that's great, isn't it? Great news. It'd be great if we win that. Hopefully, not the last award or trophy that we'd be winning this year.
Hopefully not.
Debenhams Cup against Blyth.
Debenhams Cup, yeah. Another improvement to the ground is that we're going to have some murals underneath the stands. I think it's slight
concourses,
in the concourses, slightly unclear exactly who's going to be on there.
They have started though.
They've started, yeah. I went to go and have a look. It was, I mean, maybe I'm just not of the best sight, but I couldn't really tell which player was supposed to be which from what they'd done.
I thought Gary Bennett was
you did say Gary Bennett,
yeah.
But it looks like it's going to be really smart when it's finished. We've talked a lot about our sort of favourite players in the past, but who would be the alternative mural, the Wrexham mural, where we'd have like different characters? I'm going to throw one out there as a player, Silvio Span for the alternative Wrexham mural.
Very alternative.
Very alternative, yeah.
He has a thought. I'm going to twist it slightly and say people that might sound left field, but actually I think should be actually on the mural full stop anyway. People like Jacko, as you mentioned on air beforehand, who epitomised the spirit of the fans, people who led the fights to save the club, are as important as great players, I think, and I'd love to see that sort of thing done.
The Jimmy's on there, basically.
There you go. And even if people don't recognise them, well, maybe there should be something to explain it as well. Give that story. Exactly right. Yeah, and me.
Of course, you'd be on there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be. I mean,
and the Disney Plus logo somewhere on your lapel.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. But I'd be wearing Mickey Mouse ears. I normally do in daylight hours now. Yeah.
This joke will eventually get old. Anyway,
old?
No, maybe not.
I've got pause for the statue outside.
We are going to have to wrap up, but we do have a game against Boreham Wood at the weekend. Do we fancy our chances, fellas? Or
it could be a tough test for us, I think.
It's going to be a really tough test, isn't it?
Their home form was weirdly bad for a team in third place. 1-2 drawn, 2 lost to.
And you'll be there, Mark.
I will be there at the friendliest club in the world. Absolutely fantastic. Unlike the new floodlights at the racecourse, at night time, when they switch their floodlights on, a massive portrait of me is not projected into the clouds. I think it'll be interesting. I think that they've got the second best defence in the division, but their home record's not great. They're not scoring a huge amount of goals. I think I'm right. We've scored almost twice as much as them, so I think it'll be interesting. I just want to see us get the ball down a bit and take terms to them.
For me, it's a game I think we've got to go there and beat them.
Yeah.
To
Well-
put a stamp on this league to say that we can beat teams, there and
we
about
are
where we are.
due an away win like that, aren't we? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do have a weird lopsided record against them as well, don't we? Because they
But we did well against them last season, in the cup.
we constantly do well against
home.
them, despite the fact that
Yeah.
I was checking, since they've come up, they've come above us almost as often as we've come above them, and yet we've only lost once to them ever, never at their place. So let's keep it up.
1-0 Boreham Wood written all over it now after saying that.
No. We've got to go for a win on Saturday.
Yeah. Anyway, check us out on Calon FM, same time every week. We'll be on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify. You can find us on all the other good podcast places and all the bad ones too. This has been Dragonheart.